Only 2 races remain now in 2024, and tonight we figure out who will be fighting for the championship next week at the Homestead Miami Speedway. 6 drivers are fighting for the final 4 spots left on the table. Only one driver, Nick Tarbuck, has already locked himself in, and to join him, well, to make up the final 5, we need to lock down who remains in the next level race for the championship. That will be found out tonight in 150 laps time. Welcome back to Loudon, New Hampshire. This is the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and for the 29th time this season and the second to last race of the year, the Integrity Ignite Series is back live on FTN, and as we stated before, Northeast Racing from the Magic Mile. I'll be your host for tonight's broadcast, commentating and producing. I'm David Kreutz, and now things are going to get exciting here. The championship race has been all sorts of parity until this round. Nick Tarbuck has now won the final 2 consecutive races, and he's currently on the provisional pole, looking for 3 straight, but it looks like he just got topped. Qualifying us on the move with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. We're going to take a look downstairs now as the fastest drivers are setting the fastest times, and currently Thomas Bressi has himself on the pole. 15 drivers so far have taken at least one time. Matthew Thunhorse is due up to be next. As he'll come across the start-finish line, he will be the 16th driver to attempt the lap, and so on that first lap, Matthew Thunhorse is going to move up to only 13th. His teammate for JTM Motorsport, Thomas Bressi, is up and ahead by a 10th. Nick Tarbuck, who's currently qualified in the 2nd position, is locked into the championship finale. He does not have to worry about anything tonight. All focused for the 29 team is going to be on next week. However, for he, of course, and his teammates, it's going to be all about getting guys like Michael Stroll and Rob Ackley across the checkered flag with a chance to fight for the title. Matthew Thunhorse, with a strong qualifying run, gets up in a 2nd. He'll be able to get right up there alongside his teammate, and it looks like Tom Wetmore gets up in a 14th on his first lap. Now Wetmore's going to be on the way for his final run. Overall, a total of 19 drivers have registered. Looks like DJ Stagner is going to be last, of which DJ's in a must-win position. Keep that in mind. Unless he wins tonight, he will not be championship eligible. And so, Tom Wetmore across the line. He's a part-time driver, goes up to 3rd with a rocket ship. That 08 is once again quick, and it looks like, for now, Tom Wetmore, he's back up in a 3rd, and he's hoping to keep it up in front. It looks like nobody else going to be taking a time, and Wetmore will have his strongest Integrity Ignite Series start in his career. Involved in a late race incident last week, Tom Wetmore definitely looking for a rebound here, and he is quick. Only about a 1/10 of a second off of Thomas Bressi, quicker than 2-time back-to-back winner in defense, Nick Tarbuck. All of a sudden, Wetmore might be a candidate to go out there and steal the victory from the championship hopefuls. We'll see what Tom can do, as he is one of very few title spoilers left on the track, and we mean very few. As we're going to go down that starting grid, you will see who is left in eligibility, and a majority of the field, especially up in front, are still fighting for the title. And Tom Wetmore, while he's going around taking laps, qualifying will conclude, and up to the top of the board goes Thomas Bressi, and the number 24 Chevy Camaro will take the provisional pole and turn it into the pole position straight up. Bressi wins the pole with a quick time of 29.584, 71 thousandths quicker than the rest of the field. And now Bressi, due to be one of the many that get on the circuit here for our 5 minutes of warm-up. He'll stay on pit road for the time being as few drivers decide to go out, and so final practice is on its way here in New Hampshire. And before, of course, we go racing, a little bit of time for drivers to get settled in as we get to know the starting grid for tonight's race. 19 drivers have registered, 17 of which took a time in qualifying, 18 of which took a time in practice. DJ Stagner, the only exception of both rules, and Josh Stoltz not taking a time in qualifying as well. But first and foremost, you'll have teams up inside the front row. We've seen Domination Intimidation Racing. We've seen JTM. Today, the front row will go to the latter of which, as Thomas Bressi and Matthew Thunhorse alike find themselves up on top. It's going to be pole position for the number 24 of Thomas Bressi with a quick time, 29.584, just ahead of his teammate in Matthew Thunhorse. The two will line up first and second to kick off the night. Then you've got Tom Wetmore, the first driver in this bundle who is not championship eligible, and Nick Tarbuck, who is locked in on 2 consecutive victories. Nick will be starting in 4th tonight with a 29.706. Rob Ackley finds himself on the bubble as the 5th place driver. He is not above nor below the cut line and needs a successful race tonight to stay exactly where he is. Rob will find himself in 5th to start, and Cody Smith, another one of those championship spoilers, finds himself in P6, doing a pretty good job of the Octane Series to come away with the podium. Has not yet been able to do so here in the Ignite Series, this playoff tour. Braxton DeWeese, who is now 10 points above the cut, will start in 7th. Chuck Sweeting, championship spoiler tonight for the number 75. He'll be in position number 8. And Blake Gordon, Michael Stroll, they are 7th and 8th in the championship respectively. Tonight they will both start inside the top 10. 9th for Gordon and Michael Stroll in position number 10. Then you go from there and you're going to see Justin Morton in 11th and Jacob Fife is going to be in 12th. Jacob is 6 points out of the top 5 for the time being. A successful race for him could quickly elevate him above Rob Ackley. 13th is going to be Don Stevenson with Chad Mikas 14th and Kyle Cooper P15. Daniel Foss is 16th with Alan Rowell, the final driver to take a time, in 17th as DJ Stagner, the last man championship eligible, will start in front of dead last 19th place Josh Stoltz to make up the starting grid in New Hampshire. Welcome back to the Magic Mile. Championship implications tonight. This is everything. For some drivers, it's winner to go home. For others, they must come away with a top 5. Time to set your final round firm and in stone. This is the Granite State 150, and that is your starting grid. 1 minute and 45 seconds available for drivers as we take a look once again downstairs. As it stands, it's going to be provisionally the fastest driver in the session, the 19 of Blake Gordon. Blake going to be in the grass right now, but he has set the quick time of 29.72. And Blake, who was able to come away with a substantial victory in Talladega, knows what it takes to win when his back is against the wall. Right now for the number 19, it looks like he's going to slide down to the inside of the circuit. You might remember he was involved in some early incidents last week as well. Blake does not necessarily have the speed, perhaps, to compete to the best of his ability at the intermediates when it comes to long-term. Tires have been his Achilles heel for the longest time, but New Hampshire, a track where tires will burn for everyone. Doesn't matter how good you are at saving it. And Blake Gordon in a little bit of trouble here. I'm not quite sure what he's up to, but he will stay locked down and alone. A driver who just passed him is Thomas Bresci in the 24. Thomas is in about as good a position as it can get. 25 points up on the next driver, or rather on the bubble. 15 points ahead of Braxton DeWeese, and 20 up on his teammate Matthew Thunhorse. Bresci has been able to convert some mediocre qualifying performances into strong podium position runs, and while Nick Tarbuck has gone for 2 consecutive wins, Thomas Bresci has gone away with 2 consecutive runner-up finishes. So as long as he stays out of harm's way and in effect comes away with a top 10, there really shouldn't be much a worry for Thomas Bresci. Even if tonight is not up to standard, he has a huge buffer to work with. Most drivers do not have such a luxury. And while Blake Gordon right now finds himself stuck, he's the fastest driver in this session, and a number 19 with a quick time of 29.7. That lap would have put him in 5th on the qualifying charts. Blake Gordon, fastest man in final practice. And so now, New Hampshire Motor Speedway empty one final time. 150 laps await as the field gets down to pit road and onto the circuit once again. You're going to see Thomas Bresci, of course, right there on the start inside of row number 1. Nick Tarbuck right alongside him. Not a lot on the line for Nick Tarbuck, a man who has already found a victory lane more than anyone else this round and more than anyone else in the playoffs. And he's done so at the perfect time. The first 27 races of his season, 0 victories. The last 2 races, 2 consecutive wins. And as such, well, he finds himself locked into the championship finale next week, the most important race of the season. All the while, some of our strongest title fighters, such as Thomas Bresci, such as Braxton Deweese, such as Matthew Thunhorst, are all not locked in. Right now, they sit above the bubble, but that could change, and we're talking about some significant changes to the package compared to last time we went to the Magic Mile. First and foremost, the last time this league went to this very track, it was last year in the Octane Series with the Next Gens, which are no longer used in the Octane Series, and while some drivers in this race were there a year ago, this track is significantly different when driven by the next-gen stock cars compared to the Xfinity Series. Additionally, the package at a mile circuit like New Hampshire Motor Speedway has changed big time as well. Drivers, not too much a fan. We'll see if they are able to hang on. We remember a key issue last year was spinning through the exits of turns 2 and 4. We'd like not to see that again. Track conditions tonight here from the virtual Loudon, New Hampshire. Overcast skies with 66 degrees Fahrenheit, the ambient temperature, and a track temp of 71 degrees. Not a lot of heat on the track. A relative humidity right now of 79%, however. Maybe these drivers will wear in the lines as the race goes on, but don't expect heat to be much an issue in itself. Thomas Bressy's got the bottom groove, and low side should be advantageous all night long. We remember that Ethan Lane went here in Integrity Octane Series as well and was able to dominate by using the apron of all things to get through and make distance. Tonight, Thomas Bressie looking to lock himself into the final 5 of the next level race for the championship. He'll have to come away with a top 10 or better to do so. Green flags out on the penultimate race of the season. JTM leads the field 1-2 up fronts. And so Matthew Thunhorst going to take the lead from his teammate rather early here. Thunhorst going to be in a little bit more trouble when we talk about the playoff battle. He only finds himself 5 points ahead of Rob Ackley, and right now he's going to find himself 5 positions ahead of the number 22. Rob is going to be running currently in the 6th spot, which is not a bad place to be by any means, but he finds himself right now ahead of the most critical drivers of all, including Jacob Fife and Blake Gordon. Right now, Jacob Fife is going to be 11th, and Blake Gordon is in 10th. Rob Ackley's going to have to stay directly ahead of Jacob Fife all night long if he wants to make it into the final 5. As it stands, he's got that locked up, but Blake Gordon's going to be coming through as well, and Blake wants vengeance, looking to get a little bit better after a dismal start to this round. He's kept himself in contention, and while not close, he definitely has himself a chance to hang on and make it to the final 5. Just one win has made the difference for Blake Gordon, as it has for Jacob Fife, as it did for Nick Tarbuck. One victory is the difference between finding yourself under the cut line or uncertain to making it in and locking yourself to the next round. Now, for Blake Gordon and company, all those further on back, a victory would be major. You really cannot point yourself into this situation with comfort, even though, yes, for Blake Gordon, Rob Ackley, and Jacob Fife, points can be the difference between making it and not making it. It's not a good outlook for those who have to make it in based on the numbers. Victory, number 1, that's the only thing you can count on if you want to reliably enter the playoffs here. So, you look at Michael Stroll, he's got a lot of work to do. He was running strongly last week and then found himself in trouble, significantly damaged later on, and while he puttered around the circuit, well, it really was not enough, and he finds himself now in a major points deficit, down 26 relative to his own teammate in Rob Ackley here. Very unlikely that Michael Stroll is able to do the job and get back up into the final 5, although he's had a wonderful season coming in multiple races late, and victory at Pocono catalyzed him to get to this point, and multiple runner-up finishes as well. Unfortunately for Michael, it just has not clicked in the playoffs to the same degree, and now he finds himself, of course, on the outside looking in, not the strongest position, while Blake Gordon continues to make gains, and right now he's coming up on Braxton Deweese. Braxton, who's been the most consistent driver all throughout the regular season, starting to face a little bit of struggle. Nothing all too significant, but at the same time, he hasn't been quite the dominant driver in the playoffs, save for his one victory, which he got in Darlington, and that win has propelled him up to this point without any issue. So he's got himself a perfect spot to be in when it comes to just making it to the next round. But the question really becomes, what is the goal after the fact? Braxton has not shown any significant speed to really jump ahead of his competitors as of late, and maybe that's just because Nick Tarbuck has been so dominant, but even then, Thomas Bresci, they were going to go toe-to-toe in Darlington, but strategy did not pan out for the number 24. If there's anything that Braxton has that's in his advantage, it is that strategy. He can work a call out very well, and that will be the difference between success and failure for a driver who finds himself on the limit. Very close to the cusp of success and failure. While he is not in a bad spot to make it to the next round now, you gotta wonder, what does it take to go beyond that point and do even more? Currently, Braxton finds himself in 7th. Blake Gordon is in 8th. Michael Stroll is in 9th. Chuck Sweeting's also going to be 10th here. He's one of those championship spoilers, and you can see pink numbering on the number 75 as he finds himself right alongside the white and pink number 47 of Don Stevenson. Chuck right now is in 10th. Cody Smith is in 5th. Tom Wetmore is in 4th. That's the order right now of your big championship spoilers today, and Tom Wetmore is doing a pretty good job, as you can see now, make it back in front again of Cody Smith. Tom, while not in the podium just yet, is hanging on as the leader of this big second pack. And interesting to see Tom Wetmore coming to his own as of late. He was not able to make the first 25 plus races of the Integrity Ignite Series campaign as a result of conflict with the FTF Grand National Series. So Wetmore going to have to take a step back, only competing full-time on Tuesday nights. However, he's returned again, and Roadhouse Racing, while it's only a one-driver campaign on Monday nights, it's getting increasingly successful, and there's more and more pace and every time we see Tom Wetmore come out. Tonight, starting as strong as he ever has, Tom finds himself in 4th and keeping the next level racing number 15 at bay. Oh, trouble! Braxton Awis, and there goes Rob Ackley. Major incident coming down the front straightaway. Stagner swerves to avoid it. Norton's day is done. Chuck Sweeting with significant trouble as well. Yellow flag is out. 12 laps in. Championship contenders and bubble battlers like Rob Ackley involved big time. Take a look back, and it looked like Braxton and Rob Ackley, you can see there, number 13 trying to turn out of it. Rob Ackley nowhere to go, and these two looked hooked into each other, and so the trouble begins. You can see there the number 3 of Michael Stroll, Blake Gordon as well. Gordon definitely catches a piece here. It looks like Michael Stroll just gets lucky. Then Chuck Sweeting gets collected in the mix as well. You've also got a little bit more trouble further on back. Kyle Cooper looks like he's going to get stuck up with Braxton Awis. Chad Mikas just gets away. Big trouble. Yellow flag is out. And Rob Ackley, who was oh so close to making it inside the round of 5, cannot afford this damage. But as you can see, crab walking early. And Ackley gets himself in it with the number 13 of Braxton Awis. So potentially a do-or-die moment of the championship race. And while Rob Ackley, I cannot say he is done with certainty, not in a good position at all. And if there's anything he can do now, it would have to be puttering around. He finds himself exactly on the bubble. 5th place with 0 points to the good or the bad. So if he gets passed by any further, his night is effectively over, and his chance of the championship will go with it. Let's see what's up next here for the 22 of Ackley. He comes down to pit road, as did more than half the field. Nick Tarbuck is now going to lead Cody Smith, Michael Stroll, Don Stevenson, and all those further on back out. 6 drivers, including DJ Stagner, decide to stay on the track. And it's a huge game for DJ. We mentioned he came into the night, we didn't even think he was going to race, but he has come back now 89 points out of the championship. He needs to win to make it to the final round. If he does win, everything that we've said before and everything we've seen before comes to pass without any incident. And DJ Stagner is the dark horse looking to go for his 2nd Ignite Series championship in 2 years. And what a surprise it would be, of course, if he gets it done. Up to 6th from 18th. He's the biggest mover so far today. So alongside DJ Stagner, he'll have Daniel Foss in number 38, another driver who has made some significant gains. Haven't spoken all too much about Daniel this season. He has been a solid driver in the midfield all throughout, and the number 38 now finds himself alongside the Stagner machine for a brief moment. Looks like now Tom Wetmore occupies the placement just ahead. Blake Gordon's going to be P3 now, and although he was slightly involved in that contact, it looks like he's going to keep himself out, albeit there is some noticeable right side damage. We'll see whether or not it affects him when it comes to racing speed. Blake might not know if the steering wheel is straight. Something as small as that amount of damage will not be visible or apparent to the drivers. Nevertheless, it's the same front row that kept us going to the green flag. We're back on our way again. Thomas Bressi with a significant jump, and it would bring his teammate right there with them. Green flag's out again for your first restart of the night here. Bressi gets a few car lengths, and then from there, Blake Gordon going to fall back into 4th, but it doesn't look like a major drop back for the number 19, who certainly has some damage, although we're not quite sure the extent to which it's going to affect him. Blake finds himself in 4th. DJ Stagner now finding himself in 5th, is going to get in a toss and turn battle with Cody Smith again. It looked like Cody actually got past on that restart, only to get him right back, and so now the new tire brigade will come up on DJ Stagner, as DJ's already been passed by 1. It looks like the rest of which are yet to come around him. DJ's going to go up to the high side, and now the number 29 comes through yet again. It looks like Nick Tarbuck with some newer rubber has a significant advantage over DJ in the number 64. However, for Stagner, this is still going to be a strategic advantage when it comes to resources. He'll have a little bit more to work with as the night goes on. An extra set of tire he has decided not to go with. So, if everything works out right, we have ourselves a long run, then a few short runs late. DJ Stagner will be able to afford to splurge, so to speak, on better equipment as the night progresses here. Not something that's going to come into play for the drivers who already went down to pit road, such as Michael Stroll and company, who want the new equipment. They want the better equipment now. That's what's got Cody Smith already up in the mix here with Tom Wetmore, even as Cody Smith goes a lane and a half higher up to the higher side of the circuit, which almost never works for position. You can see there Cody is quick enough to make the pass and continue to make gains on those ahead of him, including now Matthew Thunhorst and Thomas Bressi. So they'll go side by side for a brief moment behind him. That's going to include the number 47 and 64 alike. And here comes Matthew Thunhorst once more. Number 8 of Thunhorst, now 0.3 of a second back on his teammate in Thomas Bressi. Going to try to close the gap, but with Thunhorst comes Cody Smith. 9 laps down, Justin Morton going to be on pit road. 1 lap down, Braxton Deweese back on the circuit. No definite for Braxton Deweese right now, although he finds himself 10 points above the cut line. A night like this is not going to start strong, and unless he gets himself a big break, it will not end strong. See him right now, 19 seconds off of your race leader, and while Alan Rawell's on pit road, Braxton Weiss is still going to fight it out. That time around, he ran a 31.339, so no hope for the time being to run lead lap speed. He's got damage that does not look like it's irreparable, and for the first time all night long, all season long, Braxton Weiss looks to be in trouble when it comes to the championship battle. 10 points is not enough to save a driver, especially when they're not in the thick of the fight. So now Cody Smith is going to have to battle against Thomas Bressi toe-to-toe. 22 laps in out of 150. So far, Thomas Bressi has the edge. Cody Smith going to be coming right there with, and Nick Tarbuck, as it stands, finds himself in a third. Michael Stroll back up to fourth, but he's 26 points out of the battle right now, and 26 points behind his teammate in Rob Ackley. Tonight, though, if Michael Stroll stays where he is, He's going to be making gains on all the following drivers: Braxton Lewis, Rob Ackley, Jacob Fife, and of course Don Stevenson and DJ Stagner further behind. So while Michael is not in the best position right now, he finds himself ahead of most of his championship competitors, and the only ones of which ahead are Nick Tarbuck, which is going to change right now, and Thomas Bressi. Cody Smith may be taking a little bit too long to get around Bressi, and so Michael Stroll will decide to try and go for it himself. Number 3 machine looks down to the inside. Cody Smith, no choice now but to relent and give him the low groove. Side by side for the first time tonight, Michael Stroll going for the race lead. He'll go right down and under on Thomas Bressi. It's going to be nearly 3 wide now coming out of corner number 2. Michael Stroll was there, but it looks like he was not able to hang on. Thomas Bressi going to get slight advantage once again, and so he's going to use that middle groove and worry about getting the momentum off of the corners. Using that straightaway has been all that's necessary for the 24 so far. Michael hasn't had to worry about all too much about gaining on the inside, but as he pushes through, Thomas Bressi has decided to make use of a little bit of a higher side, so he doesn't have to burn up the tire defending, and instead lets the speed down the straightaways carry him through. Michael Stroll, Thomas Bressi alongside each other, going to go toe-to-toe once again. Cody Smith now with the best seat in the house is going to look low on Thomas Bressi, and it looks like at long last Michael Stroll has the race lead. Coming up now is the number 18 looking for P2, and it looks like now the new tires are in full control. Nick Tarbuck will be the next of which, and you can see now that number 29 is coming along the way, and he's to the inside of Thomas Bressi. New rubber going to be 1, 2, 3 as a result. Difference in tire between old and new is 14 laps, so keep it in mind here. You're looking at the difference across a quarter of a stint, a quarter of a predicted stint anyway. 14 laps. We're expecting stints to go about 70, 75 laps at the very most tonight, as green flag pit stops would be expected now around lap 80 to lap number 95, depending, of course, on when drivers went down a pit road in the first place. Some drivers, of course, have not gone down a pit road tonight, but they've gotten bailed out by a few of those extra caution laps. Tom Wetmore coming up again on Don Stevenson. Tom down to 7th, of course, not close to where he started, but he's got to keep working his way back up if he'd like to get there. Wetmore right now is on 27 lap old rubber, so he's having a hard time gaining, but he's doing a good job running around those who are on the same level of rubber as he is. Don Stevenson right now is in 6th. He's on a 14 lap old set, and now it looks like Chad Mikas will be coming on up. Chad to the inside, Tom Wetmore right up top, and now Chad with new tires looking to make a pass around the 08. Both drivers remain side by side, but it looks like the advantage is clear. Mikas is going to get away, and Tom Wetmore continuing to drop back. Matthew Thunhorst and Thomas Bressi will both now have to deal with Don Stevenson, and while Don is not yet up at the front of the field, he's going to get up to as high as 4th place with this strategy working out so far. For Don Stevenson, though, he finds himself 33 points out of the title race. He will need more than the top 5 to significantly improve his odds, and a victory, of course, will lock him in. Not quite sure if even a 2nd place will do, however. That's how far back the driver of the number 47 is. Stevenson, of course, with 1 victory in the Octane Series, but right now on Monday nights, been a little bit more desolate. He's been a surprise to get this far. Now the question becomes, can he do it again and get the victory when it matters most? 30 laps in out of 150. Don Stevenson just ahead now of Thomas Bressi, and it looks like further ahead the battle will continue with Nick Tarbuck and Cody Smith. Now these drivers are all on the same level of rubber. They're all on that sort of newer tire. Not going to be the aging rubber that we'd seen beforehand, but instead you're seeing drivers with much newer tire working things out together again. And Cody Smith, he finds himself in, of course, 17 laps of age on his tire set. It's going to be looking good for him for the next coming laps. That time by, as a matter of fact, Cody Smith running a 31.053. A 30.131 was the best lap ran overall for Cody, so he's not too far off of his quick times, and as a matter of fact, the 2 drivers ahead of him are still running 30-second laps. Michael Stroll's best lap is a 30.18. That time through, he ran a 30.746, so he's only about a half second off his best lap in an 18-lap stint. Not the most impressive numbers necessarily, but it definitely shows the consistency of these tires when they're put into a long-form run. We're not really expecting to see anything more than 32-second lap runs as the race goes on. Lap after lap, the night's going to progress, and we're going to more often than not see drivers lose speed and gain time second after second. The question becomes who's going to gain it first and who's going to gain the most. Now, of course, tire wear and tire strategy hasn't been considered given that we're at the very early portion of this race. The big question is going to become what is going to happen when we get to the halfway point, or if we go beyond that point under green. Chad Michelson, the number 25, is now going to dive down to the inside groove, and with them is going to come Thomas Bressi, and now they put Braxton Luis one lap down even more so. Braxton is officially 2 laps down. Matthew Thunhorse is going to come to the inside with Chad Michelson here, but it looks like there's no saving grace. As it stands, Thomas is still hanging on, and the number 25 is going to have to wait once again for another chance to get by JTM. Splitting up this duo, though, the Domination Intimidation Racing Chevrolet is getting back up there. Meanwhile, his teammates are first and second. And unfortunately for Rob Ackley, he finds himself down in 16th, so his chances to go out there and win the championship, unless there's a miracle, have been diminished severely. It's not zero necessarily, but he's going to have to make his way back up to the lead lap at the minimum to still have a fighting chance. Thomas Bressi right now in 5th would be locked in if the race were to end right now. Thomas Bressi, of course, alongside Michael Stroll, Nick Tarbuck, Matthew Thunhorst, and potentially further on back, it would go to Braxton Luis. Still up for grabs, of course. If that's how the race were to end here at lap number 35, we would know who our 5 drivers are, and Michael Stroll will be the biggest outlier of which. The number 3, as it stands, finding himself up to the race lead, and that eliminates any points deficit he's had throughout the night. And for Nick Tarbuck, the incentive is not necessarily for him to win. It'll be very impressive for him to go for 3 consecutive victories, but right now, that's not what's on the line. What's on the line is having a teammate to work with in the championship race. And for Nick Tarbuck and DIR, the goal is to get multiple drivers in. And for Michael Stroll, it's to get himself in right now, as his teammate has already put himself through. And what a story it would be for Michael Stroll to, of course, make it in. We mentioned that he came into the season late and won in Pocono and has overcome hardship off the sim to get here today. You might remember that he was with us to kick off the broadcast in 2024 as he was not able to drive during the Integrity Ignite and Octane Series duels. The question became whether or not Michael would even get up to the point of entering the playoffs. But now, leading 38 laps in and now putting those laps down ahead of the field, Michael is a championship contender, no doubt. The question becomes, will he be a surefire candidate at the end of this event, which of course comes down to his performance tonight and the rest of the field with him. He's got solid defense in the form of Nick Tarbuck further on back, but Don Stevenson is on the offense as of late, getting closer and closer now to the number 18 of Cody Smith, and he might make it a fair battle between the two of which in the next coming laps. We'll see what Cody Smith can do about it, because Don Stevenson has gotten significantly closer and has done so without little trouble. He's getting closer and closer, lap and lap in. Now you'll see Blake Gordon head down to pit road. It looks like some right side damage is going to have to be addressed. Succumbing to the injuries, Blake Gordon drops down to pit road. Bad news for the number 19 team, which is going to drop him currently out of the top 5. We'll see whether or not that undercut proves to have any success, or if it's necessary to address significant damage. And if it's the latter, well, for Blake Gordon, it looks like he has disconnected and called it a night. His championship hopes will be officially zero, as he's going to retire early, and he's going to call it a campaign. Will not make it on to the next round, and so Blake Gordon has been eliminated. He's going to drop out of this race and finish in, at the best, 15th position based on current timing and scoring. And an early drop there for the number 19. Meanwhile, DJ Stagner is still trying. DJ's doing something that we really did not expect. For him to race at all was a shock, but as it stands, he finds himself up 8 inside the top 10. Although the problem is, of course, that he cannot make his way up into the race lead just yet. I think in large part it comes due to the fact he has not gotten any practice. He joined the latest of anyone in this session and now finds himself sort of having to deal with the side effects of that. No practice laps, no nor any qualifying laps. It's going to be especially interesting to see whether or not DJ Stagner has a chance as the night goes on. He did a wonderful job avoiding our first incident, and since that point, he has stayed inside the top 10, but has not been a near contender to the leaders up in front. He's going to have to rely on some strategy or some good calls from here on out, and caution or two might help him as well. But for DJ, already an established contender and an Integrity Ignite Series champion, he knows what it feels like to get the job done and win the title, and it'll be a shock to see him go out there and do it again. He's the only defending champion of this series still in contention. Alec Daffin calling it quits after his championship victory last season. Moreover, up in the middle pack, you'll see Thomas Bressi gotten away from Chad Mikas, and now Matthew Thunhorst is fighting back on the number 25. Matthew was able to, of course, hang right to the back end, but has not gotten back ever since Chad Mikas passed him. It's been a 15-lap battle, and now once again the two drivers are practically neck and neck on pace. Matthew Thunhorst looking ever so slightly lower. He really hasn't gone anywhere deep that we've seen so far tonight. No drivers have really decided to try the apron. Briefly, we saw perhaps a little bit out of Don Stevenson, and it looks like right now he is still getting the closest of anyone else to trying to make that apron a racing groove. Doesn't look like it's going to be a significant strategy call today. Most drivers decide to stay on the slightly banked pavement here of this 1.06 mile circuit. Just slightly longer than a mile. The magic mile, often referred to as if it's 1 mile flat. In actuality, it's slightly bigger, coming in at 0.06 of a mile longer. However, if you use that apron, you're actually able to drop the distance and make it a little bit shorter than a mile if, of course, you play your cards right. And we've seen that more and more becoming a popular line in sim racing. However, right now, it looks like the banking is king, and Matthew Thunhorst is going to send it lower than Chad Mikas and use all he's got to run down the front straightaway and take another spot. That's going to put Thunhorst up to 6th, and he will get just ahead of Chad Mikas here, although Chad's going to fight back already and try to go for that reverse slide job. Can't quite make it work just yet as we ride on board now with the 25. Chad now going to be falling out of line. And it looks like despite the newer rubber, does not have the advantage in the battle. As it stands, Chad Mikas is going to be 0.5 of a second back on Thunhorst and now finds himself firmly only in the 7th spot. DJ Stagner will be the next man coming, and it looks like with Rob Ackley out of the picture here, it'll be Jacob Fife versus Michael Stroll for that final spot. As it stands, Michael Stroll, of course, going to have himself locked in, but Jacob Fife does not want to have himself sent out on the penultimate race for the 2nd year in a row. Last year in the Integrity Octane Series, Ross Cato with a walk-off victory, able to make it into the Final Four, with Jacob Fife being the first driver out of the bubble. The problem, of course, for Jacob Fife, he was not able to make his back, of course, onto the finale stage. Came down to win or lose, and unfortunately for Jacob Fife, he lost. The problem, of course, comes down to whether or not you can establish consistency and go out there and win races. Big issue for the driver of the number 36. He's only won one event so far this season. It came recently, and it came at a big stage such as the Martinsville Speedway, but since that point, the number 36 has not been able to make his way through and get back up there to the checkered flag again. He did well in Iowa 2 weeks ago. Last week, the question, of course, became whether or not he could do it again. Much quieter race, and now he finds himself on the negative side. However, things could change as we look up in front once more. Don Stevenson right alongside Cody Smith. Meanwhile, the DIR drivers remain 1st and 2nd, and it looks like now the advantage is Don Stevenson's as he makes it by the number 18. And yeah, you got now Don Stevenson getting even closer to the race leading battle, but Cody Smith going to try to go for it again. As it stands, significant trouble for Don Stevenson to get by Cody Smith, but at last he's been able to get through and get away. Cody Smith now going to be P4. Don Stevenson up to the highest he's been all night long in third from 13th. He's up 10 on the day so far, and it looks like he's coming up on another big mover in Michael Stroll. Let's see now what the DIR number 29 of Nick Tarbuck is going to do. His teammates' lead may be threatened. Keep in mind, Don Stevenson also has a significant claim to going out there and getting the win. He's also in a win or go home position, so if Don's going to go out there and really want a chance for the championship he has to pass Michael Stroll and Nick Tarbuck together. Points will not be enough. That's the big issue as it stands now for the 47 of Stevenson. And so far, number 3, Michael Stroll, up at the front of the field. He's got himself now defensed by 1.5 tenths. Nick Tarbuck, 53 laps in for some drivers. This stint has been 39 laps for the drivers who are up at that front of the field. Old rubber, you'd have to go back to 5th place to find it. That'll be Thomas Bresci, who finds himself right now, of course, P5. Then he's got himself ahead of Matthew Thunhorst. Meanwhile, battle for second continues. Don Stevenson now low in the number 29. Michael Stroll goes down low to slightly block the inside, but there's no reason to now. Don Stevenson has that low groove, and it looks like now he's going to go toe-to-toe with the number 3 of Michael Stroll. Michael's going to have to look back because there's nothing he can do now. If Nick Tarbuck is passed, he will be alone, and it looks like, well, side by side, the job has not been done yet. And Don Stevenson is there. Looking to the inside, and he's still further up ahead of the track compared to Nick Tarbuck. It looks like now for Michael Stroll, we got a new race leading contender, and Michael's going to have to deal with him quickly if he wants any chance to hang on for the race lead. Defense has not been enough so far. Don Stevenson, the one driver who has gone where no other driver has, to the very bottom of the circuit, and it looks like that successful strategy has brought him up to P2 for the first time all night long. Take a look on board now at the number 47 here. Looking on with Don Stevenson inside the cockpit, you're going to see through turns 3 and 4 the difference. Don going to go about a half groove lower, and staying right there with Michael Stroll, decides to cut lower on the later apex and getting out with a much nicer boost of momentum. Don Stevenson looks like he has one advantage over all else. He's just able to stick to the track and stick to the bottom that much more. And now Don Stevenson takes it down to the apron to gain the race lead. New race leader, Don Stevenson, up at the head of the pack for the first time all night long. Unbelievable. Don Stevenson up and ahead, number 47, got himself the race lead, but now Michael Stroll fights back. Michael on the bottom going to get himself a nice run through the corner, and it looks like at the line the advantage will be his. Michael just barely up and ahead. Don Stevenson right on top as well, but it looks like now some minor contact, brushing against each other. Advantage to number 3 once more. This is a must-win scenario for both drivers. It's not any possibility for either of which to get in with the help of the other. This is one-on-one do-or-die racing, and the spot they're going at for the race lead also entails a final spot into the championship 5. For Don Stevenson, he's had it a few times now, but Michael Stroll has held it captive for the past 40-plus laps, and he is looking not to give it away. Now, lap number 59, Don Stevenson fades back across the track a little bit further. If Nick Tarbuck can get back in front of him, it'll be huge news here for Michael Stroll, and might be the difference between making it and refusing to advance. Let's see now what Michael can do as he's gotten himself a little bit of track position again. If it's enough, that remains to be seen. Michael Stroll up and ahead, still the race leader. Don Stevenson just behind. No other battles with a significantly similar distance from one another. Most drivers are more than a tenth and a half spread apart. These two have been by a tenth of a second all throughout the run, and they've gotten closer. Whether it's Michael Stroll or Nick Tarbuck, or now Stroll and Don Stevenson, they've been keeping the number 3 very close company throughout this night, and it looks like now Don Stevenson lunges low once again, trying to get away from the number 3 and trying to gain the race lead, but Michael still prevails. They're coming up now in the lapper of Kyle Cooper. Kyle will go now a total of 2 laps down. When they get to him, Don gonna get shaken just a bit. He'll have to back off again. Michael still has the slight advantage. So they're coming up on the number 73. The lapper's due to move out the way, and we'll see exactly when he does right now. Michael's gonna be given that low groove. And while Kyle Cooper moved out and away, it looks like it's actually gonna help Kyle in staying just ahead for now. So it looks like Kyle instead is going to go way low to the inside. There goes the number 73. That will give Michael Stroll a chance to move out, as does Don Stevenson and Nick Tarbuck. No contact and no involvement with the lapper, and now the number 73 is out of the picture. Meanwhile, Don Stevenson is still there. Meanwhile, Nick Tarbuck is still there. And all the while, Cody Smith has not fallen back all too far. He's still only about a second and half off of the leading battle, and if something were to get tricky here, Cody Smith might be the next driver to go through and pounce on the opportunity. Watch out here, the number 18 might not be done as well. Cody's still finding himself in that number 3 machine, of course, right behind it. Let's see what happens for Michael Stroll in these next coming laps. 49 laps for him. He'd have at most 25 or so laps until he has to head down a pit road. Don Stevenson and Tom Wetmore, not a battle, but now DJ Stagner battles with the Wetmore machine. That send is going to put DJ up into 7th. All of a sudden, on Old Rubber, he's gaining, and he's the 3rd driver on Old Tire now. DJ Stagner looking better than we could have expected. Kyle Cooper looks to be down and out. Thomas Bressy's going to be in P5 here, and while he finds himself ahead of Stagner, the gap is now 3.3 seconds, and Stagner's been keeping it lockstep with the drivers ahead of him. So if there is to be perhaps a little bit of a reset that puts things back together again, the driver of the number 64, DJ Stagner, might be another driver with the pace to contend for the race win. That remains to be seen as we take a look up and ahead again. Michael Stroll in the number 3, still your race leader, 65 laps in, out of 150 here, and he's hanging tough, doing a great job ahead of the likes of Don Stevenson and Nick Tarbuck, while Tom Wetmore now finds himself passed by the 64 Stagner. Looking aboard from the back end of the number 64, DJ Stagner certainly has himself in good control now. A driver who came into the last second with no practice or qualifying laps to go with has all of a sudden turned this night from 18th to start to currently in 7th. DJ Stagner has defied expectations, to say the least. He's a champion already in his career, but to say tonight was expected would be a complete lie, and interestingly enough, now he is ahead of more than half the field and still making his gains. Let's see what's yet to come for the driver of the number 64 and DJ Stagner. Thomas Bressie still in 5th. Then you've got Matthew Thunworth, the 6th spot, and of course he finds himself doing a pretty good job, but the JTM drivers need more than a good job tonight. The big question becomes whether or not they can do a little bit more than what we've seen, and so far, I think it's going to be answered by pit strategy. Finesse is something that the JTM crew has been long proud of when it comes to their success at road courses, success at the superspeedway circuits, and now they find themselves in a situation where, again, they're not in the advantage when it comes to pace, but if there's anything that can be done, they've got to rely on, of course, the next few laps. 20 at the very most, and then everyone will go down and into pit road, and it will be time once again to go Racing this time down to pit road, and that's where we usually see strategy determined in these long green flag runs. Matthew Thunhorst, the reminder, he finds himself above the cut line, but he's not significantly far ahead. He's only going to find himself 5 up, while Thomas Bresci is a total of 25 ahead. So while Thomas is in a really good position here and a top 5, well, it really comes down to whether or not his teammate can join him with, because it could be 2 DIR and 2 JTM drivers to make up the final 5, if, of course, Matthew Thunhorst hangs on, and if, of course, the man who leads the way right now hangs on for more than 75 laps. That is going to be Michael Stroll, who still holds the advantage, and Don Stevenson's right behind. Michael Stroll, 1/10, and just a little bit further back, Don Stevenson. Nick Tarbuck going to be 3rd, and Cody Smith still in 4th. Interestingly enough, Cody's actually been able to rein in that gap in the last few laps. He was as far back as about a second, now it's 7/10, and even though that's still more than 3/4 of a second back on average here, Cody has been able to keep himself at a very consistent pace to stay lockstep with those just ahead of him. And if there is to be an incident, once again, we've seen if you're a few car lengths back, you can go more than 3 positions up in the blink of an eye. So Cody Smith has himself a real good position. Even if he's not leading the way, I think right now he's one of the best put together drivers to go out there and maybe just get the job done. You might not expect it from Cody Smith tonight, but I think there's real reason to believe that he's going to be up there fighting for the race win until all is said and done. While Don Stevenson and Michael Stroll are certainly the underdogs going at it, you of course have the big driver of this round, Nick Tarbuck, right there. And once again, let's talk about that season for the number 29, a season which so far has been mostly just a major up point. He's been consistent, but all of a sudden he has become the machine at the front of the campaign. With 2 wins in the last 2 races to add to 17 previous top 10s and 10 previous top 5s, Nick Tarbuck has upped his game big time. As it stands, out of all drivers with top 10s, he has the 2nd most with 19 currently. Out of all those with top 5s, he has the 3rd most with 12 currently. So the peripheral numbers show Nick Tarbuck is one of the best drivers, no question. Something you might have not considered beforehand in this campaign, but he has been remarkable when it comes to just being there without winning. 12 top 5s is a number right now only bested by Matthew Thunhorst and Braxton Deweese, so I'll tell you this much, he's in firm company to go out there and go for a championship. But meanwhile, the underdogs go back at it again. Don Stevenson now going down the back straightaway and into the front with the race lead. And if he hangs on for 4 more corners, he'll lead us to the halfway bonus. Can you believe it? Matthew Thunhorst not going to be in the lead fight, nor is Michael Stroll any longer. Stevenson is up and ahead. And coming now out of the final 2 corners, Don Stevenson with some major halfway bonus points. Number 47 leads to lap number 76, and so now we go on to your second half of action here from the Magic Mile. Talk about a big moment there for Don Stevenson. That's going to put him up, of course, not only into the race lead, but in the race lead at the halfway point. And so Stevenson accumulates those extra points needed, and he's going to, of course, hope to rely on them even if Michael Stroll gets back in ahead. Bad news, though, for Michael Stroll. He's given it all he has and then some, and as, of course, all of a sudden, he finds himself just a little bit further back. Michael's going to come down to pit road this time by and bring with them Thomas Bresci, and then Matthew Thunhorst and Jacob Fife as well. So it looks like the perfect time to come down and in if you're losing a little bit of that strength. And so, the number 36 will concede, and Chad Mike is the last of which in this early bundle decide to drop down and in together again. Pit road becomes busy at lap number 77 here. That will leave Don Stevenson out and ahead, and Don for the time being has decided to stay on the circuit, and he finds himself up in front. 47. Now going to leave Nick Tarbuck and Cody Smith to go down a pit road for themselves. Nick Tarbuck, Cody Smith, nose to tail here, as you can see, and Don Stevenson now finds himself the big outlier in a 64-lap run. Everyone else has practically deserted him. Rest of the field so far has done a pretty good job of just managing it conservatively, but it looks like Don Stevenson will take things to the extreme and decide to go a little bit longer. Interesting to see that this is the call on the table for Don, who took a long time to get up there to the race lead, and we know that while he'll have a little bit more of that younger tire for longer, this also means he'll have to wait a little bit more time to get back up in front, even if he'll have the advantage in terms of equipment. It won't be easy, but right now Don Stevenson is hoping to set himself up for some long-term success as the rest of the field is one lap down. And right now, one lap down and behind him is Michael Stroll, who had a 37-second pit stop, and so Michael will cycle up to the race lead by the time Don goes down and in. Admittedly, Stevenson is going to try to stay out for as long as he can now, and it looks like as he keeps himself in the race lead, his big signal to come down and in will have to be when Michael Stroll goes around him and puts himself back on the lead lap, which he just did. Number 3 goes up top, and the number 47 goes down low, and it's no coincidence that those two happen at the same time. Here to pit road comes the number 47 to Don Stevenson, and at long last, the rest of the field will go back onto the lead lap. Michael Stroll will cycle out to your race lead, and we'll figure out exactly where Don Stevenson is in just about a lap's time. Michael Stroll now going to be making his way around, and so coming with him, of course, it's going to be the driver of the number 29. Nick Tarbuck, second place in Domination Intimidation Racing, coming through as a pair yet again. And they're going to leave Don Stevenson at least inside the top 5, but it looks like he will fall back a little bit further than that. Stevenson now going to be in 4th, and it looks like Tom Wetmore and Thomas Bresci will come up at the same time, and he'll be in the battle for 6th, currently about 4 seconds back on your race leader in Michael Stroll. 4 laps the difference between old and new rubber tentatively, and so Stevenson actually gets the jump on Wetmore and Thomas Bresci, a big advantage which will keep him with the better track position as he begins the battle all over again. Michael Stroll right now, the number 3 machine, leads the way with Nick Tarbuck in 2nd and Cody Smith then in 3rd. You'll have 4th place Don Stevenson, 5th in Tom Wetmore, and P6 in Thomas Bresci. 7th place then Matthew Thunhorst. 8th place will be DJ Stagner, and the 9th spot will be given to DJ Stagner. Well, previous battling partner in Jacob Fife, Chad Mikas, currently concludes the top 10. As it stands, Cody Smith for Next Level Racing is up inside the podium, and the next level race for the championship comes down to today and next week. As it stands, 10 drivers are in this round fighting for the final 5 spots, and as you can see right now, the bubble between the best drivers is close. Rob Ackley came into the day 6 points ahead of Jacob Fife, and with Michael Stroll leading, he'd be able to jump up to the final 5. Winner of the championship next week will be given a $2,000 sim rig courtesy of Next Level Racing, providing high-quality sim racing performance products for dedicated sim racers who deserve nothing but the best. Visit nextlevelracing.com for additional information, as we are going to return after the following message from our friends at nextlevelracing.com. Michael Stroll is going to hang tough, 86 laps in out of 150. So far, he finds himself leading by 1.3 seconds over his teammate Nick Tarbuck, and currently, Don Stevenson not much quicker, albeit the big, most important term that we say is he is still quicker. Well, the speed difference is not all too noticeable just yet. The negligible difference in pace is still an improvement, and as the laps wind down, having that slight edge will become all the more useful in the next portion of this race. Now, for some drivers, that was a 60-plus lap run. For others, that was more so a 70-plus lap run. All things considered, there are some drivers that should be able to go all the way from here without having to worry about pit road once again. And I think for the drivers who are contending for the race win, that is exactly what their end goal is. So don't expect every driver to decide to go down and in once again. Don't expect most to go in. Instead, it's going to come down to one thing: saving tire, saving fuel. Question becomes right now, what's going to happen for the driver of the number 47? Stevenson still going to find himself in fourth, but it looks like that could change here if he gets closer and closer to Cody Smith. Braxton Deweese is 3 laps down, running in 12th, and while he's trying to salvage everything he's got left in the tank, it looks like for Don Stevenson, he's going to go right down low with ease, take it down to the apron once again, and continue the battle with the driver of the number 18, Cody Smith, just ahead. Cody Smith 7/10 up on Don Stevenson. Further on back, DJ Stagner once again battling with Tom Wetmore. Part 2 of a battle we saw just about 20 laps ago. Big question becomes, of course, what can the 08 machine do to stay up and ahead this time by? Doesn't look like there's very much else that he can do. See right now, number 64 goes up top yet again. Big question becomes, what can be done now for DJ Stagner when it comes to his championship race? That's the question that goes beyond the battle, but goes to the entire season in itself. And DJ Stagner, while he's been a championship contender, maybe has taken a different approach. He has come and gone as he pleased, and it looks like he's here once again today, still with a good chance to go out there and win, but it's almost as if he comes and goes, and sometimes just goes out there and gets a win. And if DJ Stagner is to win, it'll be quite the shock. There's a serious chance he does once again. Big question, of course, is what can he do next here? 08 machine and Tom Wetmore going to be here in 7th. DJ Stagner there in 8th. You got P9, Jacob Fife, and then Chad Mikas in 10th. And Chad Mikas running a quiet day today, looking for some improvements relative to what we saw last week, where he was involved with Tom Wetmore in a very late stage incident. And right now, that number 25 machine, well, doing a pretty good job of staying inside the top 10, but nothing all too notable. Right now, the focus for domination, intimidation, Racing is, of course, what's up next for their teammates such as the 29 and number 3. Michael Stroll having the advantage in the line of defense, and Michael Stroll's teammate Nick Tarbuck leaves Chad Mikas right now in a rather lonely position. Yes, he's got a battle with DJ Stagner to focus on, but at the same time, little else is going to come of it here. Meanwhile, Tom Wetmore is side by side with Stagner again. Advantage goes DJ Stagner, and he'll quickly make it right around. So now the driver of the 64 up to 7th, and now Rob Ackley might be coming with as well. Rob is 18 laps down, looking to salvage what is left to come with. We'll see what happens. Driver up the number 22, Rob Ackley finds himself now on the second groove. Looks like he's got very minimal additional damage to worry about. He's in a much better spot right now compared to where he was to kick off the race. But that only comes due to all the damage he had to repair on pit road. Spent more than 5 minutes down, but for the time being, once again, looks like for Rob Ackley, he's just going to have to wait and see whether or not things go his way. As it stands, of course, 94 laps in out of 150, one yellow flag could change everything. So far, that yellow flag just does not come. Look up in front, you got Matthew Flunhorst chasing after his teammate and Thomas Bresty again. Cody Smith going to be in 4th, and Don Stevenson is in 3rd. Nick Tarbuck going to be P2, and Michael Stroll is in 1st. 95 laps in out of 150. Once again, let's talk about that playoff picture here, because we have some major storylines to continue following. Right now, if the job is done, it's going to be Michael Stroll coming through with victory. And of course, that victory would be an advanced ticket to the final race in the final 5 here in the next level race for the championship. And while it's a handful right now for the number 3 to drive, he's got a significant advantage over all else. Right now, Nick Tarbuck, his teammate who runs in second, is locked in. Won't have to worry about anything else right now for the driver, the 29. Nick is in P2 and running very well as it stands. Then you got Don Stevenson, who finds himself in P3 in this race. He is 9th overall in the standings. He would need a win to lock himself in. Thomas Bresci and Braxton Louise came in 2nd and 3rd. Bresci looks like he will make it no matter what as long as he stays inside the top 10. Braxton is skating on thin ice here, and it really is going to come down to whoever else wins to see if he will make it in. Same goes for Matthew Thunhorst, though with Matthew outperforming Braxton. Braxton is now on the cutting room floor, and it now really looks like the number 13 is the man on the bubble, waiting and hoping to see a repeat winner at the end of the night. You don't have a repeat winner, Braxton is out. That's what it's going to come down to here. Victory and defeat separate for Braxton by another driver. And the fate of this number 13 team really comes down to that. Will he have the perfect chance to go out there and fight for the championship, or will he be denied solely based on what else happens around him? Up top, Braxton's going to go again. He'll give a chance for the number 24 machine and the number 8 to both get right through. But it looks like that time around, Matthew was not quite able to make it happen. So he'll wait once again to try to go for another shot. 52 laps to go. Braxton going to find himself up on the high side. Matthew Thunhorst on the bottom. Tonight, as we've seen, the inside line has been especially dominant, and really don't expect that to change as the night goes on. It's the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Very few tracks have as little banking as this circuit does, and in Loudon, New Hampshire, well, this circuit is well known not only for its racing in the NASCAR Cup Series, but also for the track it has become the crown jewel of, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Series. And while it's a somewhat large circuit for their standings, it's almost akin to their Daytona, shall we say, the Super Bowl of North American modified racing here in New Hampshire. The track has been open since 1990, so not the oldest, but it's been nearly 35 years now since it broke ground. Now, the complex here that we have has been since 1964, as the Briar Motorsports Park in 1964 until 1989. But the current circuit, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, came into its own from 1989 to 1990. So not only is it actually an oval, but also a roval is attached, which we do not see in, of course, stock car racing. When it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series, it's been visiting this circuit ever since 1993. The Whelen Modified Tour has gone here for the Whelen 100 since 1990, and the Loudon Classic has occurred since 1965. And when it comes down to modified racing, well, it's been well known that this track is their holy grail when it comes to the modern schedule anyway. The London Classic is an additional event which happens to be motorcycle racing. Additionally, the NASCAR Xfinity Series has been here many a time before. They've gone from 1990 until 2019. They took a break in 2020 and have been here ever since. So this track is well known all throughout North American stock car racing, and it's almost akin to a big Martinsville when it comes to the banking. Turns have a banking of 2 to 7 degrees. Straightaways have a banking of just 1 degree. It is really a lenient circuit when it comes to giving out banking. You've got to work with what little you have, or you're really going to go nowhere. And for Michael Stroll, so far tonight, he's got himself the buffer of Nick Tarbuck to help, but it looks like now Nick Tarbuck getting chased up the circuit. Don Stevenson is getting closer and closer. Take a look on board now at Don. Nick Tarbuck is staying right behind his teammate here, and it looks like, well, not team orders, simply put, the 29 racing a little bit different tonight. Don Stevenson coming up on the DIR 1-2, but you got to remember, even with this buffer, Don made it look easy getting by last time around, and in all honesty, that's something we expect to see again. If he goes down low to the apron, nobody else has been making that low side look as simple as Don Stevenson has. Tonight, the inside groove has been Don Stevenson's bread and butter, and the apron, something he might have seen in the Octane Series with Ethan Lane, has now become his biggest party trick, shall we say, in this racing. And we'll see whether or not Don decides to implement it once again, but right now, it looks like he's deciding not to. Hanging on even still, the driver of the number 47 is right behind. Top three hold on together. Then you got Matthew Thunhorst running 6th to Thomas Bressy's 5th. Cody Smith finds himself all alone. Cody's had a wonderful day again, but it looks like for championship spoiler number 1, he has not yet been able to really come to his own and go out there and get a victory in the Monday Night Tour. We'll talk about that a little bit more so now as Don Stevenson is coming to the inside of Nick Tarbuck, and if this is the last line of defense, then Don Stevenson has cracked it rather quickly. Side by side, Don Stevenson down low, Nick Tarbuck up top, and at last it looks like Nick Tarbuck's not the all-dominant man today. He's been so for the past 2 weeks, but it looks like now Don Stevenson is through. Up next is the man himself and Michael Stroll, and he's got nobody else to help him out. Let's see what's done from here on out. Michael Stroll now has no additional assistance. We'll see what happens here. For the number 43 lap to go point, it looks like Michael Stroll is going to have a little bit more help as Nick Tarbuck tries to go down to the inside, but it will not be enough, and he will continue to try, but not find success, at least for now. Don Stevenson going to be on the tail end now, that number 3, and as he continues to run right behind, question becomes, how much more can Michael Stroll handle? We saw how big the fall off was as soon as Don Stevenson got by last time through. 109 laps into this race and 30 laps into the stint. If Michael doesn't have much else left, we'll know soon, and it might be the end of his championship race in one foul swoop. Don just slightly lower coming out of corner number 4, and it looks like he has sent the message again. Michael Stroll tries to react. This time he does, but he's going to come way up the circuit, and he goes significantly higher than expected. Both drivers make the mistake, but it looks like Don Stevenson makes it doubly so, or rather, he's going to get away from it doubly so. Michael Stroll really going to bobble through turns 1 and 2, and it looked like as soon as he got a chance to maybe run through, not quite that time by. Instead, the number 47, he's got himself in a real good position right now to just stay waiting back again and hoping to find a mistake. A mistake that is due to come right now for Michael Stroll based on what we've seen in the last few laps. As it stands, he finds himself still up and ahead with 40 laps to go, but unless Michael is perfect from this point, his tires are starting to get worn out here. He's been pushing himself rather hard, and he does have older tire. 34 laps on this stint with 40 laps to go. He'll have to go 74 laps to make something happen. And here comes to the inside Don Stevenson again. This is a battle to make it into the championship race, and it looks like now Stevenson low, Michael Stroll going to careen down the outside with a little bit more momentum. Coming down the back straightaway, Don Stevenson has been cleared once again, but the inside has been his perfect opportunity, his lucky groove all throughout. Nick Tarbuck is still there. Nick trying to get himself in the battle. Take a look on board now at the number 29. Not the best exit out of 4, but you can see that for as long as Don Stevenson has been hounding Michael Stroll, Nick Tarbuck is there as well. Now the 47 dives deep once again, and this time while he sends it rather low, it will stick. New race leader, Don Stevenson. Michael Stroll having some momentum down the back straightaway. He'll take it through 3 and 4 to the inside and go even lower. Now Michael descends to the bottom. Don Stevenson right up top. They'll be side by side coming out of turn 4. Michael no choice now but to leave just an inch, and he leaves only too much for Don Stevenson to get away with. New race leader, it's Don Stevenson with 37 laps to go, and this time he'll make the mistake way up the track now for Don. Here comes Michael Stroll once again. Michael gets his second chance, and it comes rather quickly. What can he do with it? Not much so far. Now we'll see in the forthcoming laps if Michael can recover and put himself together again to fight. so now, as we're in the final stretch, Don Stevenson gets himself back in. Keep in mind, victory. If he wins tonight for Don Stevenson, he moves on to the season finale with a chance at the championship. It's currently Don Stevenson leading and Michael Stroll in second with Nick Tarbuck in position number 3. Cody Smith is in 4th with Matthew Thunhorst 5th and Thomas Bressie 6th. Then you got DJ Stagner 7th, Tom Wetmore 8th, and Jacob Fife in 9th as he battles now Chad Mikas 10th and last of those on the lead lap. Currently now the number 18 of Cody Smith in 4th place, running very well for Next Level Racing, and we'd like to thank Next Level Racing once again, the premier partner of the Integrity Racing League. Visit nextlevelracing.com for additional information about the leading sim racing hardware provider on the market. For high quality sim racing products for dedicated sim racers who deserve nothing but the best, visit nextlevelracing.com, and we'd love for you to support the Next Level Racing family. We will return right after the following messages from our friends at nextlevelracing.com. 32 laps remaining and time counting down. All of a sudden, Don Stevenson has himself the golden ticket to move on to the championship finale with a chance for the title. It's now going to be Don Stevenson leading the way, Michael Stroll in second, and Nick Tarbuck there in third. 1, 2, 3 for the drivers, 120 laps deep. 31 laps to go, and as it stands, it looks like it's really going to be all about whether or not the number 47 hangs on from here. In all honesty, Don has looked fantastic in the long run, and usually, as the laps wind down tonight, the advantage has only gotten larger and larger. Interestingly enough, for the driver of the number 47, we haven't seen this of him all season long. Talking about Don Stevenson's season, as we've talked about many others, the number 47 has been quiet in both the Ignite and Octane series alike. He came away with a clutch victory just a few Tuesdays ago at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, but on the Monday night swing of things so far, 5 top 5s and 16 top 10s, while Don Stevenson finds himself with one of the highest numbers in top 10s all season long. The top 5 number really isn't anything all too impressive compared to a lot of championship contenders. He finds himself on the bottom of the rung. Drivers like 14th place Justin Morton and 11th in the standings Chad Mikas have both outdone Chad Mikas on that metric. Of course, Don Stevenson, he hasn't been the most consistent at the highest echelon of the field, but he has made it to the top 10 many a time before. Tonight, he's putting all that behind him and looking for his first Integrity Ignite Series win. With 2 Octane Series victories under his belt, number 47 is due for a chance to go out and find victory lane. Now with a second advantage over Michael Stroll and company, it looks like at long last, Don Stevenson has the position. He needs to make sure now for the final 25 plus laps, he hangs on his own. And of course, you got a little bit further back. That's going to be Nick Tarbuck in third. 4th place is going to be Cody Smith. P5 is going to be Matthew Thunhorst. Then from there, you got Thomas Bressie, and it looks like now Bressie behind the number 8 machine. Interestingly enough, the number 8, held by Matthew Thunhorst, back up inside the top 5 again. And for Matthew Thunhorst, good night necessary for him. He is up 5 on the battle for the bubble. And he finds himself now ahead of the number 24, his teammate in Bresci, who has more points to defend. Good spot for Thunhorst to be in. Matthew Thunhorst in a position where, although he is on the bleeding edge of making it, not making it, I think right now he's got himself to the positive. But let's see what's up next, though, for Matthew and company. The two JTM drivers going to find themselves 5th and 6th. Got 7th place in DJ Stagner here, and it looks like he's gotten away from Tom Wetmore once again. Wetmore, a part-timer who we are hoping to steal a little bit more of in 2025, has found himself with 10th place speed all throughout his brief part-time campaign. 25 laps to go and counting down right now for the driver of the 08, and it looks like he's got himself in a very solid position to go just a little bit further. Chad Mike is in 9th, and he's got himself far and ahead of Jacob Fife here. Chad hasn't really done all too much today. He started in 14th, up 5 to 9th. Attrition has been the name of the game, though, with 4 retirees and a 5th technical retiree in the number 69 of Alan Rowell. DJ Stagner, former champion, looks like as it stands, without a victory, he will not have a chance to go out there and defend the title yet again. But for Don Stevenson, the unlikeliest of outcomes would be if a dark horse who is now 30-plus points out of the bubble battle wins and makes all that completely irrelevant. 23 laps to go on the magic mile for Don Stevenson and company, and this time by, we're going to get loud and crank it up courtesy of our friends at TrackCams22.com. The best cameras on the iRacing platform, both in cars and tracks, are brought to you by Track Cams for Gourmets. Visit TrackCams22.com for additional information and Facebook.com/TrackCams. And we're going to get loud and live here from Loudon, New Hampshire, with 22 laps to go. It's time here from the Granite State 150 to crank it up with Don Stevenson, your race leader. And coming back now with 16 laps remaining, Don Stevenson, yes, is still in control. The number 47 so far has done a wonderful job at the head of the pack, and it looks like tonight he will break a season-long winless streak, and much like Nick Tarbuck before him, come away with a critical win, the most unexpected of which perhaps all year long. Something perhaps you might have not expected. Something I don't think we expected either. Don Stevenson is here and now. And as such, he's only got 15 laps to go to clinch his first win of the year. And it will be in the penultimate race of the season while he was championship eligible. I have to admit, coming in, our predictions were not to see Don Stevenson making it into the final 5. But all of a sudden, here he is 2 seconds up on Michael Stroll and then Nick Tarbuck behind him. Nick is the only driver who is firmly locked in right now. He is in third, and he finds himself coming in with 2 consecutive wins on this round, locked in regardless of the fact. Thomas Bressi should additionally be good to go. Thomas finding himself in P6 overall means that all things said and done, there's going to be little else that is necessary for the number 24 besides hanging on to the spot he has right now in place, and with the 25-point buffer he had coming in, he will go through to the next round and make his way into the final 5. Thomas Bressi going to be going in once again for the 3rd straight season as a championship-eligible driver. He has come through 2nd place both prior times, and I'm thinking now it's about time for Thomas Bressi to break through and finally come away as the one and only winner. Something that has not happened yet before, but it could happen so long as the next week goes his way. That's the big question, as we still have time to spare. Currently, it's going to be 13 laps to go. The Baker's dozen. Cody Smith is going to be inside of the top 5 himself. There is 4th place for Smith. 3rd place will be Nick Tarbuck, and then you've got, of course, P2, Michael Stroll. Now, this lineup might change just a little bit as these drivers get close to one another again. Cody Smith has been an outlier, alone in 4th place for the most of the night, but it looks like that has changed as well. Finding him now in the 4th spot, you got 3rd place in Nick Tarbuck and 2nd in Michael Stroll. Cody was more than a second away from this battle. He's gotten as close as a quarter second now. There's a chance to get that a little bit closer and diminish the gap that much more. 12 laps remaining. Nick Tarbuck is going to be P3. Then you got 4th and Cody Smith. 5th is Matthew Thunhorse, 2.5 seconds back. DJ Stagner might make it a battle again with Chad Mikas. 2 are now only separate again by about 0.6 of a second at the very most. Lap in, lap out. While Chad Mikas was able to break away beforehand, it looks like now the 36 might be able to make that second gap a little bit closer before the checkered flag falls. While not a definitive outcome, we'll see whether or not the 25 loses the spot. As you can see, Jacob Fife with another big lunge, and he has been several tenths quicker each and every lap over the course of the past half dozen cycles. 10 laps to go. While not a done deal yet, I think Jacob Fife might be able to come away with a single-digit finish, although once again, this will not be enough. The driver, the number 36. And Jacob Fife would be eliminated once again on the penultimate race of the season. He is 6 points under the bubble coming in. But right now, with Don Stevenson finding himself up and ahead as the race leader, no matter what, Jacob will be bounced. Cody Smith, Michael Stroll, Nick Tarbuck. While Cody's already been bounced and Nick Tarbuck is locked in, Michael finds himself in a position where his championship hopes are slipping away with each passing lap. If Don Stevenson was not the race leader and instead it was Nick Tarbuck, well, we might have seen a change. But right now, even Cody Smith has gotten by the driver, the number 3, and as such, well, Michael Stroll just continues to fade away, and it looks like there's really little else that he can do as the AC Delco Chevrolet Camaro drops out of contention. It's a very subtle dropout, shall we say, but it looks like now there's nothing else that can be done but getting around to the checkered flag and hoping maybe for a second chance in the form of a caution. One that looks rather unlikely now, as we've gone more than 100 laps under green since our one and only bloop yellow flag. To the inside now, once again, it's going to be Jacob Fife. He's going to look low, and you got the number 25 up top of Chad Mikas. It's been a long time coming, but now these two battles will come together again. These two have been battling each other for the better part of this stint, and while it looks like Chad Mikas had a significant advantage to start, things have changed once again. Number 36 of Fife is right here, and the 25 of Mikas, well, just barely ahead. But it looks like with Jacob Fife continuing to gain, that could change, and it could be for the advantage of number 36. Jacob Fife drops to the bottom. Chad Mikas remains just advantageous up top. Jacob today started in 12th, so he's on a net gain no matter what, but looking to gain at least 3 positions if he makes it past Chad Mikas. Mikas up from 14th. Both drivers have had net positives, but both of which will not see the championship 5 based on their results tonight. 6 laps to go, and while this battle goes on, number 18 of Cody Smith hangs tough. Got Nick Tarbuck just ahead in that number 29. Cody Smith might be able to come away with a P2 finish here at long last. Cody's going to drop to the inside here, looking right low. Oh, that could have been contact, and Cody's going to have to back off, wiggling high and giving just enough room for Nick Tarbuck to hang on. That could have been a significant error. Luckily, all of which get away unscathed, but that was the difference between big issue and a big save for both of which. Wonderful to see these drivers, of course, keeping it clean now. You got to understand, not only is there the impact of a yellow flag, but also of damage on the circuit. Damaged cars could get involved with other drivers, and that's what cost early Blake Gordon a chance, as did Chuck Sweeting, Justin Morton, and Kyle Cooper. Now at 4 laps to go, you really don't want to see anyone else fall victim to another incident. And right now, even though the field is very far spread out, 10 drivers over the course of 22 seconds, well, another incident would be horrible for every one of which. Now Jacob Fife lunges low once again. He's got himself this time by the advantage over the 25, and now it looks like rushing down the back straightaway. Little else that Mikas can do but try to use that high groove, although it's going to be toe-to-toe now between the 36 and 25 again. Don Stevenson, going to be 2 laps to go when he comes across the stripe once more, and only 2 miles left to secure a chance to go out there and fight for the title. Popsicle sticks in the air. 2 laps remaining for Don Stevenson. While Nick Tarbuck is in second and Cody Smith is there in third, the Granite State 150 has been Don Stevenson all throughout the night. His gains for the long run have been wonderful, and it looks like now he's putting a season of 28 races winless behind him. Since February of 2023, Don Stevenson has made more than 50 Integrity Ignite Series starts. He has not won any one of which. Tonight, that may change. White flags out now from New Hampshire. Don Stevenson leading, and he's only got 4 corners left to go. Stevenson has been the dark horse all throughout this playoff campaign. Made it through to the round of 10, scathing through as the last man under the cut. And he came in as the second last man in the bubble tonight. 9th place and 36 points under. Fact is, for Don Stevenson, tonight was win or go home. And tonight, Don Stevenson chose to win. Stevenson moves on to your championship race as a title contender. Don Stevenson wins from New Hampshire, dominating the Granite State 150 and holding fort to move on to the final 5 in Homestead, Miami next week. Nick Tarbuck, his worst finish of the round is a 2nd place finish. He is also locked in. Tentatively speaking, we are expecting Matthew Thunhorst, Thomas Bressie, and the final calculation for our 5th and last driver is to be determined. That 5th man is still a mystery, but 4 drivers have been locked in after the results of the day, and Don Stevenson, the most shocking of which, is ready to celebrate. A passerby and Tom Wetmore are going to congratulate the number 47, who has so diligently fought in both the Integrity Octane and Ignite series to get to this point. And here comes Don as he gets right alongside Jacob Fife. And it looks like for Stevenson, a very similar way to celebrate. Polish victory lap, taking it in reverse around the circuit, and Don Stevenson back on the way. Wonderful win for the number 47 crew, and for Stevenson, this will put him in to the championship finale next week in Homestead. 5 drivers advance, 4 of which we've confirmed. We're waiting on final calculations to determine who is the 5th and last contender. So, taking a loop around the track, time to burn it down for Don Stevenson. And quickly burning down the house, the number 47 secures victory, the most important time in the campaign. Don Stevenson wins from Nick Tarbuck in P2. Then you got Cody Smith in 3rd, and 4th place, Michael Stroll, DIR, coming home 2nd and 4th to 9. Matthew Thunhorse is going to be P5, and Thomas Bressy's in 6th, with DJ Stagner 7th, Shad Micus 8th, 9th and Jacob Fife, and Tom Wetmore position number 10. 9 drivers finish on the lead lap. Henceforth, you're going to see 11th place in Daniel Foss and 12th place in Braxton Deweese. Rob Ackley's 13th. 14th will be Kyle Cooper, 15th is Blake Gordon, and 16th is Alan Rowell. P17 going to be Justin Morton, with 18th place being Chuck Sweeting, and Josh Stoltz, the 19th and final driver to register on the day, did not start in P19. Don Stevenson needed to win to continue his championship battle, and it looks like tonight he delivers when it matters the most. Don Stevenson, victory lane is his, and for the second time in 4 weeks across 2 different series, when the chips were stacked against Don Stevenson, he won, and it was a do-or-die victory again, this time to move into the championship finale, eligible for the title. Don Stevenson, another clutch victory, perhaps your most clutch ever in this league, and your first Ignite Series win at the perfect time, winning here in New Hampshire.
I guess it was kind of an important win. That was probably the drive of my career there. But New Hampshire's been a track I've been really good at in the past, and there have been times where with setup wise it's been hit or miss, and I found myself a line where the car wasn't as much affected with the bumps as if you tried running more the normal line that you would typically run here. But got to give credit to Ethan Lane. He raced with us on Tuesdays. He basically showed us all that line and pretty much gave us all a butt kicking in the Gen 4 car. So figured I'd try something close to that line here, and probably wasn't doing it as good as he was, but it still was good enough tonight.
And you mentioned that Ethan Lane, you rode with him just a few weeks ago in the Octane Series, and you were the only driver who decided to go down to the apron to cut some time on those later laps in the long run. It looks like that is exactly what you did tonight, and it worked out pretty well. Could you walk us through how you had that speed in the long run?
Well, I think running the bottom lane did actually save the tires more than running the middle lane and basically bouncing the right front up and down through the bumps. Because anytime I tried running that middle or top lane, it was just bouncing off the splitter. And I'm no physics major or anything, but I'm gonna guess maybe that wasn't helping the tires, because I also felt like running that bottom groove was helping keep the left side tires cool, and it just made it where the drive off, I was getting off the 2 and 4 was really what allowed me to set up the dive bomb passes to be in a position where I could do that without just wiping out the person I was trying to pass. So hats off Stroll. Though Stroll, fought me really hard there. That was a lot of fun we were having. In the first run there when we were on even tires, and that was some of the most fun I've had in iRacing, and probably several years and everything. But hats off to him. That was fun and everything. And just it's unbelievable. It's crazy to win this race and lock myself into the final five at Homestead. Really, I felt like, maybe I could get a, podium finish, top five or so, and I would have been okay with that because I came to this race 40 pins out or points out. I hadn't really been a threat the whole season in this league. Grinding out top tens, basically just staying alive, but kind of goes to show it really doesn't matter what you do the first 29 races or 28 races, 29 races of this league. If you perform at the right times, I'm in the same spot as guys that have won multiple races this season. So one race next week for a championship.
It looks like tonight, just a race where victory mattered most. You came through, you got that. One race to go in 2024 here, Don. And before we move on to that championship finale, any final messages or shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, I want to thank you, David, up in the booth. You do a great job every week. For both leagues, and just happy to have you, broadcasting. It's fun going back and watching these. Thank the admin team, and on the Monday night side here, Stroll, William, Calvin, Brandon, who just hopped on, who just became an admin. Thank all those guys for their hard work and all the admins on Tuesday night side to do what we do and everything. Thank all the drivers that come out and support the league. Thank Next Level Racing for being a great supporter of the league the last 2 years and everything. And got to thank my wonderful wife that allows me to race. So these last 2 months have been very hectic with my high school coaching season, but that's just winding down now where, I'll have some free time this week to practice for next week. So, we'll try to give them hell next week.
And now just one last chance to show what this team's got. Don Stevenson, big race to lock into the final five tonight, winning from New Hampshire. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And for Don Stevenson, big victory for Nick Tarbuck. Well, we'll bring him in right now. And your second place finisher, the number 29, coming away with his worst finish of the round. A resounding second place finish, Nick. It's not often, or at least not in this round, that we've seen you so far down the order. But second place, it's still a great run for you and a good points day at that.
Yeah, man, really not good to run this badly in a race. I don't know what to tell my sponsors or my crew, but we need to pick it up. But in all seriousness, no, New Hampshire, really not one of my strongest tracks. So kind of surprised and happy to have come out of here with a second place finish. Really was hoping that the Stroll would pull out the win in your end for DIR Racing, but I'm glad to see that Don was able to pull it off. That was just pure awesomeness seeing him run the apron like that. So congrats to Don. But yeah, man, it was not a bad race at all. Just not the fastest by any means, so just hanging on for most of the race, trying to keep in the top three.
And you mentioned tonight you had top three pace, you and Michael Stroll working alongside each other, and that's something I first wanted to touch on. What was the game plan between you and your teammate there when it came to getting him into the championship, perhaps, if he were to win?
Yeah, I really don't like to play like team orders and stuff like that, so we weren't doing any of that. He even asked, and I said, I'm racing you. And the same thing I said to Rob last week at Vegas is like, I'm racing you guys. If I can get by you, if I'm faster, I'm going to get by you. But if I'm not going to do anything stupid, like I might try on somebody else who's not in our team. So, I was really gonna I was content with hanging behind him when he was in the lead and trying to just like lap at my own pace. But near the end there, when he started having some trouble getting off the corner, I just was faster. So he was kind enough to just let me go by him, and that was that. But there was really no game plan of like, oh, I'm going to play defense, I'm going to do this and that. I was pretty straight up like, I'm going to race you. If you're faster, you can stay ahead. If you're not, then I'm going to try and win as well. So, it doesn't sound like a great teammate move, but I never said I was a good teammate, I guess.
Nevertheless, you come away, both of you, inside the top five today, and we had a long green flag run. We've had almost entirely green flag racing throughout this round. Only one or two cautions to speak of, and tonight we did have one of which. So conditions changed a little bit overall, but it looks like tires were just the biggest thing. You had a 72-lap final run. How did it feel with the package tonight, since we know that also changed a lot?
Yeah, it didn't feel too bad, honestly. I mean, it was bottoming out a ton on the bumps, but it didn't feel too bad. And I mean, I could hang up with Stroll. I could hang with Cody. Um, at the start of the run, I was hanging with, I think, Thunhorst and Bressie, I believe. So I was able to hang with the people who were running the same lines that I was. But as soon as Don came up doing that insane low line move, I mean, he was obviously able to save his tires better or just get a better run off the corner or something. So the tires didn't really feel too bad until I really started pushing at the end and I melted my right front. But yeah, I mean, the key was probably tire management, but also just learning that line that Don ran. That was clearly the fastest way around the track.
And it looks like tonight, well, you mentioned Don Stevenson making it through for his win. You've gotten yourself 2 to lock in as well. Homestead's up next. How are you feeling about your chances to come away with a championship here?
Yeah, man, I'm not sure really. It's I think all of us in the championship final round are, we're good and we deserve to be there. And I think that Homestead's a good track that tests everybody's skill set equally. I think that it's a really fun track, and all I know is that I'm going to put some practice laps in this week, which I don't normally do because I would like to win a championship here in integrity. But above all, I'm going to go out and just have fun like I normally do. And if I win one, great. If not, then, on to next year, really. It's just, I do it for fun, and winning's just a cherry on top.
And now one last week to get to that point. Nevertheless, a big success in this round of 10. Nick Tarbuck, if you have any final shout-outs you'd like to give, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Want to thank you for putting on a great broadcast. As always, thanks to the admins for putting on a good race. Thanks to everybody who watched, mom, dad, my wife, the boys back home, other Discord, everybody. And I think that's about it. See you guys next week.
And tonight, second place, lowest position run on the round. 2 victories and a second for Nick Tarbuck as he comes away runner-up in New Hampshire. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
With Nick Tarbuck on the way, one last driver to speak up tonight, number 13 of Cody Smith, or rather, the 18. He finished third, and we've seen him on the podium very recently. The Octane Series tonight, the big championship spoiler once again comes with a successful run. Cody, P3, and a very solid day for you and the Next Level Racing crew to get back up inside the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be talking to you again. Running a little better the last few weeks, I feel like. Couple tracks that I enjoy racing that I always run pretty good at. But that was fun. Long green flag run at New Hampshire is a lot of fun. It's hard to pass, but yeah, I enjoyed that.
And all things considered, you mentioned starting up in the front of the field. Well, for the number 18 team, we've seen that before. Tonight, 6th place. So just outside the top 5. You made gains early and you kept it up there. What about the race pace sort of helped you out in sticking yourself up there and not leaving?
Yeah, early I knew I not being in the playoffs, stage points didn't matter to me. So my idea, I would have liked to have qualified a couple spots forward. I thought I had probably top 3, 1 lap speed. Just missed it a little bit, but I knew I didn't need stage points, so I was going to go hard early, try to get some track position, and then I was actually going to try to pit twice rather than running it out to the stage just to do something different. But then when we had that caution, I figured we're probably going to get a long run, so there's no sense in saving the tires. So came and got tires, and then that kind of put us, at least the top 3 of us, kind of on that right tire strategy for us to kind of battle out the rest of the race.
And it looks like tonight, tire strategy pretty even with the drivers around you. You made some gains in that final run in particular. You were lonely in 4th, and in the final 10 to 15 laps, both Nick Tarbuck and Michael Stroll coming your way. You thought there was a chance maybe there to get just a few spots higher?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was that last run, I tried to save a little bit of tire. That's why I dropped off a little bit, probably a little bit too far. I was able to get back to Tarbuck and Stroll there. I was running some faster lap times than Don. Don was just so good on the bottom throughout the whole run. I was able to get back to him a little bit at the end of the run, very end of the runs, but at that point, it's just so hard to pass. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I was faster than Tarbuck definitely at the end there. Tried to get by him a couple times, got into the side of his door a couple times. I did not want to wreck him. I know some guys are fighting for playoffs out there, so didn't want to cause anything like that. But yep, gave it all we had. A lot of fun racing. We'll go try to get them next week. Not my favorite track on the circuit, but we'll see what we can do.
And perhaps the chance to go out there and play spoiler one last time in 2024. Cody Smith, P3 today. Any final thoughts you'd like to give out after tonight's event?
Yeah, just got to thank everyone that tunes in. Got to thank you, Dave, for broadcasting. Got to thank Next Level Racing. Got to thank everybody that comes out every week. This is a long season. I know 19 cars still showing up after, I don't know, 30 weeks or however many weeks it's been. That's awesome. So, yep, just thanks everybody, and let's go get them one more week.
And so, one last chance. Cody Smith, once again, a solid run. Third place here from New Hampshire. Thank you again for stopping by.
Thanks, Dave.
Having Cody Smith on the move, we've gotten the word from all of our top 3 finishers. Cody Smith again, he finds himself in third. Nick Tarbuck going to be in position number 2. And Don Stevenson gets the job done, wins here in New Hampshire. Once again, Granite State 150. Stevenson breaking through, and an underdog will win it once more. First-time winners, Blake Gordon, Jacob Fife, Don Stevenson, and Nick Tarbuck all in the playoffs. And the newcomers have come on strong as of late. And now, tentatively speaking, we have your lineup for the next round. And it goes as follows. Don Stevenson, of course, locking himself in. In addition, it's going to be Nick Tarbuck, Matthew Thunhorst, Thomas Bressy, and Braxton DeWeese. Those are the 5 we are expecting next week. Championship contenders, one last race, one last time at the Homestead Miami Speedway. The championship comes down to one last race to win a Next Level Racing simulator rig and finish off the Next Level race for the championship. We'll figure out who gets the title in just a week's time. Tune back in live on FTN, same time, same place. You've been watching from the virtual New Hampshire Motor Speedway, the Granite State 150, brought to you as race 29 of the 2024 Ignite Series season. I've been David Kreutz, commentating and producing all up tonight's action. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is thoroughly appreciated. We thank you all for tuning in once again. If you'd like to join the Integrity Ignite Series community, scan the QR code on your screen, or make sure to check out the links in your description, and you'll figure out exactly what's going on with the FTN community and every league we broadcast from Monday and Sunday and everywhere in between. Tomorrow night, the Integrity Octane Series has their penultimate race of the campaign. Championship battle, it continues on for the Ignite Series and Octane Series all the same. Tomorrow, when it comes down to the Tuesday night tour, they will be heading to Phoenix for 156 laps. And we hope to see you there as well. Thank you for tuning in live on FTN tonight. And from David Kreutz from the Loudon, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, we thank you for tuning in, and we hope you have a fantastic night.